All right, we are live.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Dave Hamburger. I want to welcome folks to our June Exeter School Board voting meeting. And we are again conducting this meeting by Zoom conference. We have our school board all in attendance from what I understand, as well as some of our administrative staff. We also have Joe Way and Joe Calamita who will be assisting us with the logistics of our technology. So before we start our meeting, I'm going to ask our board secretary and Guidish to ask for a roll call for attendance purposes.
Behrens?
Here.
John Fiddler?
Here.
Ann Herring?
Present.
Dave Hamburger?
Here.
Mike Japina?
Here.
Sharon McClendon?
Here.
Curry Miller?
Here.
Michelle Stratton?
Here.
Allison Wilson?
Here.
All are present.
Thanks, Mrs. Guidish. So before we start in our meeting this evening, I do want to make a few comments. Tonight's board meeting is our last meeting with Dr. Phillips. So I did want to take a few minutes before we get started into the voting meeting to make a few comments. First, I want to say thanks to Dr. Phillips for your 4 years of service to the school district. You know, the job of superintendent is incredibly difficult, and very few people realize you know, the demands of the position, the level of stress involved. In a position like this, you need the management skills of a CEO, and but you, in this case, you also have to be an experienced educator with a pretty thorough understanding of instruction and school operations. You have to have a pretty comprehensive knowledge of school law, command of all areas of school district policy and school regulations. And of course, you have to have that sensitivity to understand and relate to both students and employees while still having the nerve and the courage to be able to make difficult decisions while you're on call, essentially 24 hours a day. So during your tenure, we did accomplish a lot. I want to name a few things just that stick out in my mind. Close and dear to my heart, we've thoroughly updated our district policy manual. When you first came, we identified that the policies were pretty significantly out of date, and we have updated all over 300 of our district policies. We've completed a comprehensive facilities assessment and conducted a multi-million-dollar upgrade to our facilities that included safety and security improvements. We've seen efforts to strengthen our curriculum. We've added cyber instruction options for students. We've conducted rigorous efforts to look at the budget annually to address our structural deficits through both community engagement and comprehensive administrative reviews. We've seen an expansion and growth of our one-to-one program, the computer program for students, and STEM programs. And we've seen increases in the availability of instructional technology. We now put much more of a focus on student data, which maybe wasn't there previously. This is a means really to assess not only student success, but also identify those students who are in need of additional assistance. Building data reports are now common features of our board meetings. We've added a lot to our mental health services and programs, and we recognize the increases in the number of students who come to our school with complex mental health needs. We've dealt with transgender issues and more recently equity and diversity issues, as well as the COVID crisis. All this under your tenure, all this under your leadership. So I just wanted to extend my thanks for everything you've done to move Exeter forward. And on behalf of the board, I want to wish you well in your future career endeavors. It's been a pleasure of mine to work with you. We hope you found your time at Exeter fulfilling, and obviously wish you success as your career moves forward. So thanks, Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburger. I appreciate the kind words, and I do wish the district well going forward.
Okay, I'm going to move to item 2 on our agenda, which is a building program report. And this will be done by Mr. Campbell, our senior high school principal. Mr. Campbell, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburger. Thank you for having me tonight. It's been quite a year. I don't need to explain that to anybody here, but what I've tried to do is capture some of those highlights in a pre-recorded segment, and I'm going to ask that Mr. Way or Mr. Calamita present that at this time.
Hold on one moment here. Tom, I'm trying to find this here. June.
The link is in the agenda under that section.
Oh, all right. All right, let me get the, it's just not prepared here. Board docs. Sorry, just give me a moment.
While Joe's getting that together, I'll just comment that it was enjoyable putting together this reflection. This, in contrast to January report, is much more anecdotal and looking at whole program and whole kids and some of what the activities that we've done. The last several months have really consumed our energy and attention, and sometimes it was hard to recall that 3/4 of our year was very normal. So it was very rewarding to look back and see all that we had done. I mean, a high school in a given year is busy no matter what. And I think it was hard to capture much of that, particularly this year in a short summary. But it was good to reflect in that way. Thank you for the opportunity to give a quick overview of the year at the high school. In contrast to my report in January, which focused on academic performance, this is more anecdotal and highlights the student activities and interpersonal aspects of the year. I'm proud of what we have to offer, and I'm aware that we're constantly trying to look to evolve and grow those opportunities. The year started off very normally for our incoming class of freshmen, class of 2023, when they stood in the field for their orientation. But by the end of the year, we knew we needed to get very creative to honor our seniors as they readied themselves for graduation. Our English department saw an updated Talon as they went online this year, which gave them an opportunity to post more frequently and to post more articles. We also saw increased use of information or instructional technology, and that's across many of our departments. And in this case, our public media teacher was using podcasting as a way for students to show what they were learning and also share information with each other. Our math department engaged in a number of activities which they normally do throughout the year. In the fall, they had the Moody's Math Challenge, a national competition. And then in January, Mrs. Wegman took a group of students up to KU for Girls' Day, or Math Day for Girls. Once we went into online teaching, we also saw an embrace of a lot of instructional technology, from doing screencasting to posting lots of images in Schoology itself. In our social studies department, Mr. Ziegler brought in Corey Eckberger, who is the son of Dick Eckberger, who is the only Berks County to be awarded the Medal of Honor. And once we went online, our social studies teachers collaborated in their use of WeVideo to allow students to show what they had learned. Our science department was very busy as well. We continued to take advantage of the Antietam Creek for our stream studies. In our forensics class, they did a nice merge of law and science in a murder trial that they were analyzing and simulating. Our science Olympiad team was first place in the county and hoping to move forward before those events were canceled. And we always conduct lots of labs, which in the fall looked very normal, but by the spring had moved online. And once we did move online, our teachers got creative with their use of how to simulate and demonstrate what they were doing from home. And Mr. Reese reached out to some YouTubers to bring them into class, and it was nice that they actually spent some time working directly with our students. The world language was poised for a busy year as well. Started the year by welcoming about 15 students from our partner school in Spain, and we were getting ready to head over there ourselves this spring before the pandemic, and our Germany trip was canceled as well, and we're looking forward to resuming those when it's safe. Our Day of the Dead celebration is continuing. It's a cross-cultural or cross-disciplinary event, including world language, art, and music departments. And the world language clubs are all also very active with their cultural awareness activities, field trips, and some charity drives. Online, here's an example of one of the creative ways that Madame Lappick engaged her students. This is a baking lesson in which they were making French cookies, all in their own kitchens, all speaking French. Our art department continues to be recognized for its excellence. This is largely because the department is able to capture these students early and retain them and build those skills over the time that they're here. Balfour, our publisher, has recognized our yearbook again as being one of the best in the country. And two of our top students, Lauren Posey and Julie Rears, were recognized through a variety of competitions. Seniors, all of our students were disappointed that our art show was canceled, but our seniors did have an opportunity to have their art displayed once the art department worked through some technical barriers and got the seniors' art online. Music department, also a point of pride. The marching band starts its season very early in the summer so that they're ready to go when we all come back in the fall. We had a normal slate of concerts through the winter and brought in professional musicians to work with our kids, and then also took our students out on the road to do performances at various PMEA events as well as the Reading Royals. PMEA was hosted by Exeter this year for our District 10 Band Festival, again solidifying our position in the region as a school of excellence for music. The theater department was busy with the fall play, with Family Album, very touching choice for high school, and a contrast to the energy and popular music of Mamma Mia. We were fortunate to have squeezed in one performance for Mamma Mia, and those students that left that night after that one performance were literally the last students in the building this spring. Family and consumer science has a knack for its cross-disciplinary work. Our food truck competition continues to merge the food sciences class, the fashion arts classes, and the marketing classes for this culminating project. And the food classes also stole a page from the nearby chemistry classes when they put together this fruits and vegetable periodic table. But one of the things that's also noticeable in their work is this real bias toward hands-on activities and significant attention to detail, which is evident in this gingerbread house. The business classes are always looking for real-world relevance, whether they're designing their team marketing plans and logos. Even when they shift online, they were still digging into those details. But we brought the Reading Royals in this year, and they worked with us, giving us feedback on our work, as well as providing an opportunity for us to serve as a focus group for their marketing team. Within our business department, our internship program has expanded from 20 students this year to 44 who are looking to sign up next year. Tech Ed continues to offer a variety of opportunities for our students. We expanded our use of Raspberry Pis this year based on some grant money that we got. Our Governor's STEM team took second in regionals, and here we can see some of the design process getting ready for a prototype of a student putting on a shoe that's going to have sensors to help people with mobility issues. Special Ed continues to support our students, not only in the special ed classes, but also throughout the building. Crossroads work with the coffee cart and salad days is a great foundational activity to build the skills so that they can work out in the community and as they get older. One great ad we had this year was the Unified Champions Bocce team. This was a integrated team of special ed and regular ed students that have competed in a PIAA governed bocce league. It was very inspiring to see the turnout by students and teachers for the competitions we hosted, and I'm proud that we're on the cutting edge of leading edge of an expansion of that program in the county. Clubs and activities are an important part of what we do and really round out the students' day. We start every year with a club fair to try to bring out as many students and recruit them into the clubs that are in the building so that students know what to sign up for and they can participate throughout the year. Beyond clubs, we also have some other events like Student Forum, which gives us an opportunity to gain students' understandings about what their needs and interests are so that we can make decisions about how to run the building. An important part of our clubs is service to others. So whether it's the Safe Halloween Night, which all the clubs come out to provide an opportunity for our youngsters, to going out and working with fire departments or raising money for cancer, or putting on significant events like the 9/11 Day or charity drives, or building pollinator gardens on our campus, or one of the big events we had this year, which is Minithon, in which we raised a record nearly $31,000 to fight pediatric cancer. Service is an underlying theme in many of those, and I'm proud that our students participate in that. Socialization is also important, and the clubs are integral in organizing that. From homecoming in the fall to our wish week over the December, when we really emphasize our culture of caring and culture of giving to others, to finally when we come back to a month of key club organized intramural basketball. Lots of opportunities for our students to socialize, and our clubs are very responsible for that. One of the things that we realized when we left the classrooms in the physical sense this spring is that we were missing our human connection. And I was very pleased at how our teachers and staff stepped up to figure that out, whether it was nurses putting together videos about staying healthy, or teachers carving out intentional activities to just connect with students to maintain that relationship, or the whole building coming together to put together our ball toss video, and even our mascot stepping up his social media presence to remind us that we're all in this together. Those were important parts of how we stayed connected during this time of being apart. And I want to give a special shout out to our counselors and our SAP team for really paying special attention to families and students in need. That's always challenging, but it's particularly challenging under the circumstances this spring. And lastly, I want to come to our seniors. At a time when the class of 2020 was getting ready to celebrate spring of their senior year together, we were forced apart. The spring has been emotionally challenging for all of us, but those challenges were magnified for the seniors, and I give them a lot of credit for rising to the occasion. I want to thank Mr. Wisniewski for his leadership as senior class advisor. Early on, he recognized that we must find ways to honor this class. I hope that we have done that. It has been a real team effort, and I really appreciate all that people did, whether they were teachers, students, parents, or just the community at large. We met a lot of the logistical challenges to hand out caps and gowns. And then since students couldn't come to us, we went to them to hand out yard signs and gift bags. And when it came time, we did our baccalaureate service virtually. We did our awards ceremony virtually. We managed to pull off a car parade during a period of iffy weather. And finally, we settled in for our virtual graduation ceremony. I really enjoyed seeing the students' personalities come out through their cap and gown videos. They are truly a collection of amazing individuals. It has been a challenging year, but I think we met it with all the strength and resilience that we would expect from Exeter students, families, teachers, and staff. And I think we should be proud of all that we have managed. Thank you for your time this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to share what we've been doing at the high school.
Thank you, Tom. Excellent presentation.
Thank you.
I think it's amazing, to kind of look at that. I mean, I just kind of wish I could go back to high school again and go through it, because I mean the amount of activities, the diversity of activity, and the quality of programs and services that are at the high schools is just truly staggering. And when you see it all together like that in a single video, I mean, it really brings to life, I think, what's happening at our high school. We have a lot to be proud about. And thank you for, it's in such a short time you've been here. Seems like you've been here for 5 years. You really have a command of the high school, and I think of all the programs, pretty comprehensive knowledge of virtually everything that's going on there. So thanks for your leadership there and your administrative team for all the work that they do, and your staff, obviously, to make that all happen.
Thank you. Yes, a lot of credit deserves to be shared there. It's a great place to be, and I'm very happy and humbled to be able to work here and work with our kids and families.
Any other comments at this time?
say really quick, thanks for the presentation. It was wonderful. But in general, to the board, with our school consistently being recognized for the talent that we have in art, my hope is that in the near future we can add the A in STEM to make STEAM, like a lot of the other schools have done. I'm hoping that's something that we can work on in the next couple of years. Thank you.
I'm not sure if I picked all that up. Perhaps I'm the only one that was having a little problem with hearing Ann, but
So what she was basically saying is that we should add the A to STEAM to STEM to make sure it adds the art to the next year. Hopefully, that's what I interpreted.
okay.
That's it. Thank you.
All
But
right.
it was a little hard to I don't know if, Dave, you said you had a little trouble, but it was breaking up a little bit, so I couldn't understand everything either. So I don't know about everybody else, but I couldn't either.
Okay. It might be Ann's connection. All right. Thank you, Ann.
All good.
Any other comments? If not, we will move on. Again, Mr. Campbell, thanks so much. Excellent presentation. Moving on in our agenda, now is the time we accommodate public comments. And in our particular process with Zoom, we have asked folks in advance to kind of submit any questions or comments to us online. So I'm going to ask Joe Calamita. Joe, do we have any public comments at this time?
No, we don't have anything at this time. If anyone has a question or a comment, they can submit that at questions@myexeter.org.
Thank you. And we will check back. We don't have it explicitly listed on the agenda, but before we end the meeting today, if there are any additional questions or comments that come in, we will address those at the end of the meeting. I want to remind folks that this evening's board meeting will be conducted in the consent agenda process. And this is where we take multiple actions under one vote. Virtually all of the items on the agenda, unless they're identified as such, were reviewed at the public workshop meeting last week. If any board member would like to have us pull out a specific item out of the consent agenda for an individual vote, just indicate that before we get to that section of the agenda, or as we get to that section of the agenda. So we'll go to item 4 on the agenda at this point right now, which is minutes. It's recommended the board approve the minutes as listed in the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Treasurer's report, item 5. It's recommended the board of directors approve the treasurer's report as listed in the agenda.
Second.
And we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Yes, by the way, this includes the payment requests as listed in the agenda as well. Just to clarify. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Board policies, we have 2 sets of policies. This is item 6 on the agenda. Policies that are listed 1 through 6, or I'm sorry, 1 through 5. No, yeah, 1 through 5 are second reading and will be implemented at the end of, they will be this will be the final approval for those policies. And then policies listed 6 through 12 are being approved for first reading, which means that they would require a second reading in July. It's recommended the Board of School Directors approve policies for second reading listed 1 through 5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. It's recommended the Board of School Directors approve policies for first reading, policies listed 6 through 12 in the agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Ahrens. Item 7, business functions.
Thank you, Dr. Hemberger. So I just want to do a quick run through of what I'm going to be recommending to do under consent and then otherwise on individual items, because we have a number of budget proposals that I think should probably be voted on separately. So for the consent agenda, I'm going to do numbers 1, 2, 3, and then 11 through 16. So it is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the following business functions items: 1, 2, 3, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Ahrens.
Okay. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves items number 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'll stop there. So 4, 5, and 6. So that's the food service rate increase, the food service department budget, and the capital project funds budget for this coming year.
Second.
Second.
I think that was Mr. Fiddler with a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Ahrens.
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves item number 7, the following commitment balances to the general fund balance for 2020, 2021.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Ahrens.
So just so everybody knows, for this next one, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote ahead of time. So it is recommended the Board of School Directors approve the following business functions items: the final general fund budget for 2020-21 school year in the amount of $79,381,077.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
I call
Yes.
for a roll call vote.
Yes,
Oh,
I have
sorry. Sorry, John.
just a brief statement. I ran for the seat on the school board because I believe in public education. I'm a proud graduate of Exeter High, and the successes I have enjoyed in life are a direct result of the education I received here a half century ago. In a wide-ranging letter to the British reformer John Webb in 1785, John Adams discusses his views of public education. He wrote, "The whole people must take upon themselves the education of the whole people, and must be willing to bear the expenses of it. There should not be a district of 1 mile square without a school in it, not founded by a charitable individual, but maintained at the expense of the people themselves." I believe in what Adams wrote. His words get at the heart of what public education is. We benefit from it, we pay for it. But Adams could not have predicted the situation we find ourselves in today, with the dramatic imbalance between what the state contributes and what the local residents pay. But that is where we find ourselves in 2020. We also find ourselves surrounded by a plague that has, on a global basis, infected more than 9 million people and killed 472,000. The toll in the US is just as sobering: 2.3 million cases and 120,000 deaths, higher than any other nation. The economic impact has been almost as devastating as the disease. 1 in 4 American workers have filed for unemployment benefits, according to government statistics. Those not working, paying the bills, including tax bills, becomes a wrenching process. For that reason, I cannot support an increase in property taxes this year, even if the increase is modest. It is not modest to the family deciding whether to buy food or pay the rent. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call, Mrs. Gadish, please.
Mr. Aaron's,
Aye.
Mr. Fiddler,
No.
Dr. Herring,
No.
Dr. Hamburger,
Yes.
Mr. DePina,
Yes.
Dr. McClendon,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
No.
3 noes, 6 yes.
Motion carries. Thanks, Mrs. Gadish. Mr. Aaron's.
So I'm going to complicate this. I apologize, but I'm going to take the per capita tax next and then vote on the real estate millage after that with a roll call. So it is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves business functions item number 9, the per capita tax for the 2020-2021 school year.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
No.
One no. Any abstentions? Motion carries 8-1. Mr. Aaron.
So I'll just ask for a roll call vote for this vote as well. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the establishment of real estate millage for the school year 2020-2021 at a rate of 33.6073 mils, or a 1.5% increase.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. I can appreciate, what you just said, John, and I can appreciate people, not wanting to vote for any increase. But I've said this at several meetings. We have to, first of all, we have to have a balanced budget for the state. We have a responsibility to do that. And I have not heard any alternatives to being able to balance this budget. And I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. So 2 years ago, we had a 0% increase. Last year, 0.5%. And I think it was known that we were going to have to raise taxes in order to balance the budget this year. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things going on, as John Fiddler had mentioned. But I wish that someone could tell me how we're going to get this balanced budget without this. And that's what I haven't heard. I mean, I'd love to be voting no as well. But I know that we as a board have a responsibility to balance the budget right now at this time. And can we look for some things to do, next year that might not be that great for education, in order not to raise taxes? We can look at that. But right now, at this moment, I don't know how would we balance the budget. We've already drawn down on the fund balance the past 2 years. And it's going to require, even with this increase, it's going to require drawing down some more on our fund balance. So if somebody can answer that question, how do we balance the budget with what we have in front of us right now? I'd love to say no. I read things that the public are saying, and, I'd love to just say no, but I do not see how we will be able to have a balanced budget. If somebody can tell me that.
If I can just jump in as well here. This is, I think, probably the most challenging vote that most of us, if not all of us, take each year. And it's not lost on me that there's a lot of people struggling, and I don't think that that's lost on any of us. It is a tremendous responsibility to be responsible for the finances of a school district like this, and to know that the people who are paying for it are your neighbors, and your friends and your family, and everybody has a strong opinion about what they're paying for with public education. And I don't take away the challenge that any of us have in supporting or not supporting increases, or just the millage rate as it is in general, because it is comparably high to other districts in the county. And that's a challenge that we're going to have to tackle in the future, and have to really look hard at our budget as we move forward. And I think this year was an indication that we were going to do that. We've reduced from our initial budget proposal, I think, more than $2.5 million. And without the funding that would be required to meet some of our concerns with the coronavirus, this budget would actually be less than what the budget was passed last year. And we're going to continue in that effort to try and make sure that we are right sizing or bringing into parity with what the public expects, and what we see that their expectation is for what we provide for the students. With all that being said, I'm going to be supporting the tax increase. That's a uncomfortable position for me, a free market conservative who very much believes that tax rates have a negative effect on growth. But what we're really seeing is that there is still a lot of home buying, and Exeter is a very desirable place to live. And I think at the foundation of that, the number one reason that is because we have an excellent public school district that is the center of this community. And I think at the end of the day, the responsibility of us as elected officials is to make sure that we are providing the best education that we can for the children of this district, graduates like John, graduates like me, graduates like other people on the board, and graduates like all the people who graduated this year and for years to come. And this is probably one of the least palatable parts of being a school board member is voting on things like this. But I think it's our responsibility to continue to fund the school district at the level that we believe is necessary. We passed a general fund budget just now for $79 million. And we have a responsibility to pay for that. And unfortunately, because of burdens that are placed on us by the state, both in the amount of funding they provide, as well as the regulations they put on us and the statutes that they permit us to tax through. This is the one avenue that's available to us. So while I think is not desirable for any of us, I think it's our responsibility to support this tax increase.
Any further discussion?
I'm just going to say one thing. One thing I think is going to be clear for next year is that we're going to be dealing with some uncharted waters, and we are going to have to deal with some things that we don't know what they're going to be, but we need to sustain our schools. We need to have a budget. We're going to have possibly buy PPEs. We're going to have teachers that need to be safe. We need to clean our buildings thoroughly, maybe most likely every day. That calls for a budget. It's not going to be a cheaper way to go next year. We're going to have more resources and more things, and we're going to be having to do a lot more with a lot less. So that's why I'm going to have to support this budget, because we need a budget in order to handle these things. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be very safe. I mean, not going to be very, it's going to be a hard pill to swallow. But what I'm thinking about is what's going to happen to these students. They're going to have to be in an environment where they might have to wear a mask every day. Our teachers might have to wear a mask every day. So these are a lot of things that we need to make sure that we have a budget that can fit all these new needs that we're going to have for these students to have a good, powerful education. We might go back to where we're going to have to go cyber again. And our teachers are not, essential workers. These employees have options. So I wish they were essential. Maybe that might change some of the things that we're going to have to do next year. But there are some things that we're going to have to adjust. And so that's why I'm going to go ahead and have to support this budget, because we can't go without a school. We have to have a budget. That's all I have to say.
Any other discussion? Mrs. Geidish, roll call, please.
Mr. Aaron's,
Aye.
Mr. Fiddler,
No.
Dr. Herring,
No.
Dr. Hamburger,
Yes.
Mr. Jepina,
Yes.
Dr. McClendon,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Stratton,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
No.
3 noes, 6 yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. Are there any other items, Mr. Aaron's, in your section there?
Nope. Got it all.
All right. I want to thank folks that, and as I think Hunter and other point out, that tends to represent one of the most difficult and controversial things that we do, and I want to commend the board for taking the action that they did. We're going to move on in our budget, in our agenda to Personnel Committee, and that's Mrs. Wilson.
Thank you, Dr. Hamburger. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves or ratifies the following personnel items, 1 through 12.
Any
Second.
discussion? Any discussion? I'm sorry.
I would just like to say that Anne Geidish is retiring at the end of this year. And hold on, she sent me something and I just lost it. She has been with the district for 21 years. And we thank her for all of her service with us. And I totally did just lose the email from right in front of me. So she has lots of plans for retirement. I did read it, spending more time with her family and living a healthy lifestyle. And I know reading to her granddaughter are some of the few, because I read them, but I don't have them right in front of me. So thank you very much, Anne. And we wish you all the best in your retirement. Of course, we do have a few months left. She's not leaving us until October. So thank you, Anne.
Thank
You're
you.
here.
I'd also like to say a word or two. I know we have more time later, and we will be able to acknowledge your retirement and more opportunities for us to make comments on your outstanding work with the district. Your legacy and long history with the district. But my initial reaction is that it'll really be impossible to replace you. We've come to rely on you so heavily for, not only your financial acumen, but your oversight of facilities, transportation, IT. You've sort of been the holder of institutional knowledge. Anytime we have a question that goes beyond 5 years, we all turn to Ann Godish to try to find out what happened. I wish we could convince you to reconsider, but we understand that retirement is a very personal decision. So I want to wish you, very best in your retirement as well.
Thank you.
Can I just jump in quick and echo all the comments about Anne, and I'll have a comment related to her later, but I did want to touch base on 2 other items that are here in the motion, which is items 6 and 7, which are the elimination of positions and the reduction in work hours for district aides. And as challenging as voting on the tax resolutions are, there's probably something that's not any more challenging than this. This is certainly not a decision that I think any of us wanted to be a part of making. We value all of our community members, both faculty, staff, and administration as well. And it's a sign of the times that we are in that this is probably going to happen again. But I didn't want to let it go without saying thank you to all of the people that are being affected by the decisions that we're making. And it is not lost on us that it affects people, people who are even residents. And that's really the most important thing about what we do here is servicing people and the students. And it's unfortunate, and it is not lost on me that these are the choices that we're left with. But we believe that they're the right decisions for the district and for the community. And I'm going to be supporting them. And it is with a heavy heart that I go about doing that.
Any further discussion? I just want to reiterate, this is items 1 through 12. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Thank you, Mrs. Wilson.
I found the list. Can I just say them really quickly about what Anne wants to do in her retirement? Sorry. She would like to spend more time with her family, live a healthy lifestyle, help care for her 90-year-old mother, read lots of books with her granddaughter, Cora, work on projects that have been put off for years, and volunteer for a worthy cause. So thank you, Anne.
And come back to the school district and help us out in the business office as often as she possibly can.
She can't wait for that.
Thanks, everybody, for those comments. We're going to move on to item 9 in the agenda, student functions. Mrs. Stratton.
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the following student functions items, number 1 through 15.
Second.
Any discussion?
I was curious if we could get some more clarification regarding item number 14. That's new from last week. In particular, I guess my question is, I'm assuming that the transportation for students is if they go to one school and we have to transport them to a school that has the Laurel Life Services. But my question is more the cost of staff, it says, is $87,550. I'd like some clarification on that number and what that really is.
That's for 1.5 staff members, and they, as they did this current year, oversee the students that actually are on site in the morning and afternoon, and really oversee their education and the online program.
And is that a new number? Like, I guess my question is, why is that number not included in number 13? Like, what's so different about that?
They're 2 separate programs. Item 14 really is related to our supported cyber program that we've had for a few years. And when we had Manitou in our building, Manitou staff was actually able to assist us with our supported cyber students. But with that dissolving, starting this current year, we've had Oleum provide us with this type of service. Item 13 is really related to the classrooms that are in our other 4 school buildings.
Okay, so then it's not something new, it's just now with Laurel Life, is that correct?
Correct. Their name has the Laurel Life program. It's Folium doing business as Laurel Life.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant you said that we're using them this year. So last year we did not use them for the cyber school program, or we did?
In 18-19, We did not, because Manitou was still operating out of this building.
But this is a number, this is who we would have used this school year, then 1920?
1920, yes, we did use.
Okay.
Mhm.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. My only other comment would be that I'm super excited about the project taking place at Watton Creek and getting the outdoor classroom going. So thank you, and hopefully that gets approved tonight. So thank you to Deacon Hearing for taking that on.
And I guess I had a question about that too. I mean, were we going to have any, I wasn't sure whether there were any visuals or any pictures that we were going to look at, Ann or Joe.
Yes, we gave Joe a couple of pictures. Can you hear me okay? Is it coming through okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to hand you over to my son. And if you have any questions for him, he'll just give you an explanation of each picture.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Go
All
ahead.
right, so this first picture is the steps leading down to the classroom. So if you go to the back of the school, there will be a pathway, and then those steps lead you down. So can you go to the next slide? All right, so these are the steps going down. As you can see, it's basically like wood surrounding it, and then in the middle there's like rocks, but a lot of these have eroded out. So I have to get a lot of stones and then fill them back up, which I can fundraise and get my own money for. Next slide. And then the railings, we'll have to sand those because they're really splintery. And yeah. Then there's a example of where the rocks have eroded away. That's a hole in one of the steps. Next slide. Here's another example that goes right out the bottom to the other side. So it's a really steep hole. All right, next one. Then this is a picture of the outdoor classroom. As you can see, there's a lot of growth going around. So we're going to have to like chop that down with some tools to clean it out. Next slide. That right there is supposed to be a trail, but it's extremely overgrown. So we're going to have to like weed whack or something like that to clear it out so that that's opened again. Next slide. Then that's the inside of the fence. This is where the classroom is. This is another part where we have to weed whack to open up the classroom area a little bit more. Next slide. Then that is one of the benches for the classroom. And I was thinking we also sand the benches because they're also splintery. And I was thinking you guys would have to approve of this, but I was thinking I might be able to paint it and you guys can choose a color, but I was thinking like Exeter colors like blue and white. So have one that's blue, then have one that's white and like that. Next slide. And then there's poison right there. So we would take down the poison out of the area to make it safe for the kids. Next slide. And then there's a good picture of the whole classroom. So next slide. And then there's a bottom picture of the stairs. Next slide.
And just explain that you would need to get approval by council if they approve the project.
I would have to get an approval by the Boy Scout Council as well, if you guys approve it.
And that's it?
And that's it.
Any questions?
Do you guys have any questions?
Just
Deacon,
one.
Sorry.
I just would like to say thank you very much for doing it. I know that Mrs. Stratton and Mr. Fiddler and I visited early in March with Dr. Haller and Mr. Hathaway, and they kind of walked us through, and already the growth just from these pictures really shows it really gets overgrown because it did not look nearly this bad at the beginning of March. So I really thank you for taking on this project. I think it's a great opportunity for our students. It's there, so I'm glad that they would have the opportunity to use it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just one quick question. Do we have to get any permission from the township to do this work?
I think this is all our land, I believe, the school district's
Okay.
land.
All
I
right,
think.
great. Great. Just curious.
We can go to the township as well, just to confirm that there's no issues with it, though.
Yeah, it seems to be more of a maintenance. I don't think this is new construction or anything that would rise to the level that would require it, but I don't think it's a bad idea at any time to have a conversation with the township.
Better to have it now than after the work is done.
Yeah. There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Deacon, do you have an idea of when you're going to be doing this?
Whenever I get approved by the Boy Scout Council, I'll probably have to get a sign-up sheet for everybody who wants to do it, and then I'll figure out from there when I'll be able to do it. So I don't have a time right now, but
The goal is within the next 2 months.
yeah, the goal is within the next 2 months.
Well, if you are going to be doing it on a weekend, let me know. I'd be happy to come out and help you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, same with me here. This is Yuri, so I'll be glad to assist as well.
We'll
Nice.
remember that.
All right.
And Deacon, I hope when the project's completed, you take some pictures again
Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
and provide the board with, those pictures again. We'd love to see the work that you're doing. And thank
I'm
you.
excited to see the before and after. It'll look cool.
It will be exciting to see. Thank you. Commendable. Any other comments? Any other questions for Deacon? Deacon, good luck with your Eagle Scout, your progress toward your Eagle Scout.
Thank you.
It's one achievement. Okay, any further discussion?
Well, I just want to say that should be pulled for me to abstain for that vote.
Okay, you'll abstain, and
For
you'll
no-
abstain on item 15.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so you'll be voting 1 through 14. The rest of the board will be voting 1 through 15.
Correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And Ann, you have expressed an abstention for item 15, is that correct?
Correct, I abstained for item 15.
Otherwise, you agree with, you're in favor of 1 through 14?
Correct, yes, I am.
All right. So motions carry. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Stratton. So we're going to move on to our committees, and we're going to start off with athletic, and that's Mr. Japina.
So it's recommended the Board of School Directors approve the following athletic committee items 1 through 3.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry, did I hear? I'm sorry. Did I hear?
Dr. Hemberger, this is Dr. Winters.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I just wanted to, while we're on this item, just give a very brief update on marching band and extracurriculars because we have a little bit of information that I would just like to share.
Okay.
So at this time, senior high administration, the athletic director, and our district music department are working collaboratively on a plan to resume marching band and other extracurricular activities by the start of band camp. So the contents of that plan are going to reflect the key components of the athletic plan that you'll be voting on shortly, as well as guidelines that have already started to come in from cavalcade of bands. The finalized plan for marching band and extracurriculars will be presented and voted on at the July 21st board meeting. And as a district, we certainly appreciate everybody's patience as we strive to put together a plan for extracurriculars and marching band that allows for these important opportunities for students to occur while still keeping the health, safety, and welfare of our students as the top priority.
Dr. Winters, when does band camp actually start?
I believe it is August 10th.
So we'll be taking action in July for a band plan.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Thank you for that update.
You're welcome.
Are there any questions or further discussion? Okay, we're voting on items 1 through 3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries 9-0. Business Functions Committee, Mr. Ahrens.
Thank you, Dr. Hemberger. So I don't have anything formally prepared for this evening to distribute to the other board members, but what I can say at this point is that Dr. Miner, Mrs. Guidish, and I will be sitting down sometime in early July to mid-July to try and sketch out a program that the committee will be following for the rest of the year, and then begin to draft a process that we'll be using to really look at the budget in earnest next year. We've talked about here some of the things that we are concerned about, especially staffing levels and the like. And that's something that we're really going to be tackling in the next year and the next 2 years for the budget, and really looking at how do we do more with less? How do we bring the needs of our students and what we're spending into parity with one another? So that's really going to be our mission. Just to put it in a quick context, in terms that I would use regularly, we're really looking at strategically realigning our spending to where we want to see the district go in the future. And that's going to take a lot of groundwork, a lot of thinking, and there's going to be a role for the board to play. And Dr. Miner and I are really going to be trying to sketch out a process for the board to exercise its leadership in that, and help develop that vision that we're going to be in pursuit of for the next couple of years. So that is our mission as we start out this next year. We'll probably have a set of budget goals similar to what we had this budget year, because I think that was very successful. So there will be more to come, and I'll update you guys as soon as I have something more.
Thanks, Mr. Ahrens. Item 12, Curriculum Programs Curriculum Committee, Dr. McClendon.
Okay, there's one item and then I have the report. So it's recommended that the Board of School Directors approve a memorandum of understanding between the Berks County Intermediate Unit and the Exeter Township School District to coordinate the efforts between the BCIU's Head Start program and Exeter's Title programs, and there is an attachment.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Dr. McClendon.
Okay, so Curriculum Committee met last Tuesday, June 16th. The meeting time was changed from 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And that was to allow some time in case we went over a little bit on the meeting, and also to allow time for transition between the curriculum meeting and the school board workshop meeting. We did go over, arrive at the meeting last month a little bit late, and there were some teachers who had prepared presentations and they were not able to, they either had to be cut short or weren't able to give them. So anyway, that's a change in meeting time. So Dr. Winters went over the possible curriculum meeting plans for the 2021 school year. And that is, if we're in yellow, we're going to continue to have our meetings by Zoom. But if we're in the green phase, then we'll meet in person. And I believe we're going to green on Friday, I believe. So our next meeting, we do not have a meeting in July. Our next meeting is in August. So maybe that would be an in-person meeting. So there was a lot of information about what the next school year is going to look like. And I'm going to just summarize a few things. Marianne did a great job of writing out all the details in the minutes. There's several pages of that, so you can refer to that. So I'll just mention a few things, and Dr. Winters, if you want to add something, feel free to go ahead and do that. So one of the things that they're going to look at, well, of course, it's going to depend on what phase we're in, what the beginning of the school year is going to look like. And whatever the district does is going to be based on the Department of Ed and the governor's guidelines and support with the BCIU. But one of the things that they're going to do is form a task force. They're going to create a task force that's going to, really look at the plans, to take a look at what was the impact of our students on digital learning for the last several months. That includes academics and mental, emotional. So they'll be looking at that and how to address, any gaps there. Dr. Winters shared some resources and sent the links to those resources on ParentLink. And also teachers have posted resources for students to continue with their summer learning. Those resources are posted on Schoology. Students do have their Chromebooks. They're going to keep them over the summer. They usually turn them in, but they're going to have them over the summer so they have access to, computers to do this work. TIPS program is going to be available, and that's going to be online. So Dr. Winters also talked about, some different scenarios. One is if we are in yellow, that would be a blended learning model that is 25 or less people can gather. And then if we're in green, would look different too. Mrs. Devlin and her and the kindergarten team are working on a transition plan for kindergarten students. And I was especially interested in this because I have a grandson who's going to be starting. And my daughter just asked me the other day, well, what's going to happen? Because little 5-year-olds, they have a lot of anxiety about coming to school, and they weren't able to come into the building, and teachers and so forth. So Mrs. Devlin talked about the plan that they have, to try to help with that transition. And they're going to be sending out some modules and doing some things in the month of August to help, those little ones to transition. Professional development at the beginning of the year is going to also look different because there's going to be a concentration on making sure that everyone understands all the safety measures. Now, Huri talked about a little bit about that earlier, about some things that we may have to do. So they want to make sure that everybody, all staff, has a good understanding of what to do in order to keep children and staff safe. Let's see. Dr. Winters also talked about parallel programming, which would be online program like a virtual school and also traditional. And we want to be sensitive to parents who, even if the school buildings are open, there are parents that may have some concerns. And so we want, to know parents to know that they have some options, and, we don't want to see our children, going into charter schools. Charter schools do cost the district a lot more money, and they're not using an Exeter school district curriculum. So we want, they're going to also be looking at the parallel programming. So that's about all. Dr. Winters, was there anything that you wanted to add? I didn't go into a lot of detail because it's all listed in those minutes. We can look at if you wanted more information.
Yeah, no, I think the only thing I would just mention is that, really, right now, it's been a lot of brainstorming and a lot of thinking about all the different items that have to take under consideration. Once Dr. Miner starts and the task force begins to work and we get, a representative group of individuals, then we can start to look at all the different aspects that need to go into preparing for opening next year, whether that's yellow or green.
Okay, so our next we do not meet in July because we don't have a board workshop meeting then. So our next meeting would actually be August 11th. Hey, Dr. Winters, can I ask you, are we still going to stay with that 5 o'clock? If we're doing in-person meeting, I saw an email and it thought
that would be my desire, but we can talk more about that and get communication out to folks either way.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my report on curriculum.
Thanks, Dr. McClendon. Any questions from the board regarding curriculum programs, curriculum committee? Okay, we're going to move on to facilities committee. Mr. Fiddler.
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve the following facilities committee items, 1 through 4. We've had presentations on all of those or detail at the workshop meeting. So we're recommending that we approve all 4 items.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, Dave and John, I would like to say real quick on AEM Architects and really the investigation of new construction or improvement to the current bus barn facility. I think we have all agreed in principle that there's something that needs to be done with the facility where our transportation department has been run. And when this was looked at in a very substantial way by the previous board, there was a lot of community frustration, uproar. And I think that, it's completely possible that we would see that again. I think what's really important and what sticks out in my mind here is that this proposal is to set us up for doing what we believe is best. It is not the proposal for the construction of the bus facility, but we are aligning ourselves with an architect and a professional service that's going to guide us through this process. And I believe that because we've agreed to doing something with that facility or a new facility in principle, that we need to have concrete information to make decisions with. And that's why I'm going to be supporting this. But I do want to call out, and I think it's really important, that the project for constructing a new bus facility or improving the current one is going to be under a lot of scrutiny. And I think we really need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence and also ensuring that we are providing a facility that is conservative in its approach and that supports our needs. And I think that there was a lot of concerns last time, and I share those concerns. And I want to make sure that we're working through the process and that we're all staying attentive to the work that's going to be proposed later down the line here.
Yeah, thanks, Hunter. I would just say, that all of the discussions, relative to the moving forward with this particular, proposal and project will be subject to review and discussions at facilities committee meetings that are open to the public. They'll be advertised, and we've encouraged folks to, tune into those or actually come to those at some point as we have them and stay abreast of developments with this project. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to say I agree with Mr. Ahrens and what he said. I believe we do need to look into our busing facility, but I also believe we don't need something extravagant. We need to look at something practical and directly at what our needs are. And I feel we can do that in the future. Thank you.
Well, I think, in fact, during a discussion with AEM at a facilities committee meeting, I made that very point and suggested that we look at 2 or maybe 3 options so that the board can do exactly what we're talking about here, spend our money wisely, while at the same time making sure the transportation department has what it needs to do its job professionally, efficiently, and effectively.
Any further discussion? Okay, we're voting on items 1 through 4. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries 9-0. Thanks, Mr. Fiddler. Personnel Committee, Mrs. Wilson.
I don't have anything at this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Wilson. Policy Committee, I will say I received a formal notice from PSBA Policy Services indicating that we have completed the final aspect of our policy review and revision process. We've covered the policy manual from the very beginning to the very end, and they've acknowledged that. That was part of the contractual relationship we had with them. So any new policy development that we do from here on, we'll be using the PNNs, which is the policy network news service that we get through PSBA. You'll see it in your board docs under the policies section. You'll be able to see, board members will be able to see the PNNs. And this is information on new policies that we're going to have to stay on top of. I would like to say on behalf of the policy committee, we're looking forward to working with Dawn Harris, our new Pupil Services Director. She'll be our administrative liaison, with the policy committee. And we still have our work cut out for us because there are always revisions. There are always changes to policy. And we appreciate the board's continuous review and feedback, when it comes to policy changes that are recommended. That's all from my report. Student Functions Committee, Mrs. Stratton.
I do not have anything to report, but Dr. Ahrens does.
Dr. Hearing?
I'm sorry, Dr.
Yet, but
I'm comforting a crying baby at the moment. I apologize. Dr.
Congratulations, Hunter.
I'm gonna take that and run.
You go with it, Hunter. Sorry.
Okay, Joe, do you have that flyer I sent you that you could screen share? That one, perfect. Thank you. I'd like to share with you an Eagle Scout project by a senior of Exeter. His name is Brett Gogler, and he's with Troop 377. For his Eagle Scout project, he's actively collecting donations for Helping Harvest Food Bank. On June 27th from 9 to 1, he's asking people to stop by 254 Pennsylvania Avenue and drop off donations. We know that with COVID, our food banks are in dire need. So I'm very proud of Mr. Gogler, now a graduate of Exeter, that he's doing this for our community. And I will have that posted on my Face group pages if anyone's interested in getting that information. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Hearing. Anything else for Student Functions? That'll do it?
Yep, that's all.
Okay, thanks, Mrs. Stratton. Technology Committee, Mr. Miller.
I currently have nothing to report. Of course, I always think that the two Joes are the best, so they are doing a great job, and I can't say enough about how they have, did all the adjustments needed to make sure our school district had all the resources they had this year. So I'd like to thank both of them for all their hard work.
Thanks, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Exeter Community Education Foundation, Dr. Hearing.
Yes, ECEF received 2 grants in total for $2,000 from the Gilmore Henny Foundation for renovations at the Awatin and Jackson Wald playgrounds. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Hearing. Brooks Career and Tech Center, Dr. McClendon.
The BCTC, we met on May 27th. At that meeting, we approved the general fund budget, and the sports staff contract was approved for the 2020-21 school year. We got an update on the house project. They're actually working on a new house, going to be, I should say, and they completed the house, and it's going to be sold by a sealed bid process. So it was appraised on June 1st, and they're going to be taking bids, sealed bids to sell it. And we'll be voting on that. Actually, tomorrow we meet. One of the things that I learned was that I thought that they were going to make it like a big profit because the house is really nice and, it's going to go for a lot. So I thought they're going to make a big profit. But what I learned is they do make some profit with that, but the real value comes in the education and experience for our students. I mean, there are programs, CTC programs, the students do not have that opportunity to work on an actual real house and they rotate all of the different programs in to get that experience to help to build that house. So that's where the real value comes in, but they do get some, usually make some profit depending on what the house goes for. Let's see what else. I talked to you last month about, they were looking at, with BCTC, there were some challenges because a lot of it is hands-on work that they need to do in the shops. And so with the digital learning was more focused, it wasn't more focused, but they did more theory, thinking that when the students come back, they can do more hands-on. But for the seniors who already graduate, some of them were lacking hours that they needed to get their certification. So it was approved that the seniors can come back for a quarter when the school year starts to complete their certification, their hours for certification. That will be no cost to the students. So our next meeting is going to actually be tomorrow, and it's going to be a Zoom meeting with optional in-person meeting. And the welding building is finished, so they're going to be doing some tours of that. So I know, we don't usually get too many people coming to our meetings, but you could, you could get on by Zoom if you'd like to see one of our meetings, BCTC meetings. I think they have the link. I believe it's on their website. So I think that's it then. That's it for my report.
Thank you, Dr. McClendon.
Oh, one more thing.
Sure.
I think that if you're interested, I'm not sure exactly, but I know they told us we were interested in actually seeing the completed house. Some months, well, pretty many months back, we toured the house and it wasn't complete, but if anyone's interested in that, in seeing that before it gets sold, you could let, Dr. Kraft know it's BCTC. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I saw that they're now getting into heavy equipment at BCTC, so that's going to be a really neat thing for them to do soon. So it was an article I think today that they're now starting classes in heavy equipment, which would be really neat, like bulldozers and things like that.
So, and the house is really, I don't know if you've driven past that. It's right across from the BCTC in Ole. I mean, it's amazing. I think, it's just amazing for our students, and to know that when the students drive past that for years to come, they know that they helped to build this house as a high school student. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think there was a write-up in the paper about it.
Yeah, there was. Yeah,
it's an impressive. Yeah. Well, thank you, Dr. McClendon. BCIU board. The board met this past Thursday, June 18th on Zoom, as we normally meeting. They always have a feature employee of the month. That was one of the things where they recognize someone who they believe is providing extraordinary service. Dr. Hackman provided us with a video of an overview of the school year, which is always really fascinating, very similar to Mr. Campbell's video, kind of a review of all the programs and services that the IU provides for the 70,000 students in Berks County and the 18 school districts. Dr. Hackman also reviewed what they call the roadmap for reentry, which is the phased transition to school reopening that the IU will be, has recommended. And I think we all do know that the IU has been providing a tremendous service to the school districts, to the 18 superintendents who meet regularly with Dr. Hackman, as well as all the job-alike groups, the assistant superintendents, curriculum directors, pupil services, special education folks, who all meet through the facilitated assistance of BCIU. BCIU also approved its pandemic coordinator, which we did this evening as well. And they introduced a survey, and a survey that they sent to all their staff regarding the return to work. The board also was provided a copy of the Act 44 annual report, which is a requirement in their executive session. So that's the extent of my report for the BCIU. Legislative liaison, Mr. Fiddler.
Just one quick item. I circulated to the board a template for a resolution against racial inequality submitted by the PSBA. I did not intend any action tonight. Perhaps we could put that on the agenda for the July meeting and have a full discussion. And if we agree to adopt it, to do so at that time. But I just wanted my colleagues on the board to be aware of that it came in just in today's email from PSBA. And it's a rather detailed template that we can customize, but I think it's something that we should seriously consider. So that would be my report for tonight.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention, John. Township Borough Liaison, Mr. Chapina.
There's an awful lot going on in the township, and I'll let Hunter tell you.
Well, I think the first thing is to let you all know that the township appointed a new township manager. His name is Jeff Bartlett. And speaking with a number of the supervisors, they're very excited about him. I watched their meeting last night, and he certainly, I think, had a commanding presence. And I think he's really going to be a good partner from all accounts. And I'm very excited to be working with him and for the district to have a strong partner that we can work with as well on those things about joint cooperation. I think there's going to be a discussion soon that's going to need to take place between the township and the school district about what to do with happy landings. And I don't want to initiate too much of that discussion this evening because I think it's really their responsibility as the leasee to explain their current position. But to summarize it quickly, I think they have a lot of concerns about their exposure and their liability for the maintenance and management of that property. And I think that they have a number of concerns associated with vandalism that's been occurring more recently, especially this past year at the park. I think that they have a number of things that they'd like to discuss with us that are probably going to be pretty significant for the community. So I think that's going to be coming down the pipeline soon. I think that's really all that I want to point out at this point.
Thanks for that update. Anything else, Mr. Chapina, under Township Liaison?
Nope, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Hunter. Superintendent's report, Dr. Phillips.
I have no report tonight, Dr. Hamburger.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Phillips. I think we had, Joe, I think we had asked if there had been any community comments that we would check in with you again. So we're checking in. Anything to report?
We have one comment. Okay. So this is from Janet Graydon, and it's concerning Eagle Project. I just wanted to point out that the steps at Owatton Creek were an Eagle Project completed by Ben Wilder. Ben just graduated from Moravian College in May. Oh. And that's all.
Thank you, Joe. Before we adjourn this evening, I just wanted to announce that we will be having an executive session after this board meeting for the purpose of receiving and reviewing the yearly district security report in accordance with Act 44. And due to the confidential content of this report, it's required to be presented to the board in executive session. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to go about doing that, so I'm going to rely upon Joe Way or Joe Calamita to guide us through that process next. But and we'll do that. I will accept at this time, however, a motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to step back a second. I forgot one more thing. I always try to leave an opportunity for board members who want to make a comment or have something they'd like to say. And this is that time. I apologize. Go ahead. Anyone?
So, Dave, I have something that I'd like to bring up. I think one of the important things about the school district's board is really the role that it plays in creating a vision and a strategic leadership for the district. One thing that has been on my mind for a long time, ever since before I started as a director and before when I was attending meetings, is the importance of citizenship and the important role that the school district plays in building up citizens of this country and of this community as well. And I think as my second full school year comes to an end on the board, it's going to be something that I'm going to be bringing up increasingly more to really make sure that we're going down that line. I know that Dr. Winters and I have had some conversations briefly about some of the social studies curriculum changes that are going to be coming in the future, and some of the strategic planning that we're going to be going down in the coming months and year with Dr. Miner as well. But I think it's really important, especially around the climate of our country right now and our community and the things that we're juggling and struggling with, that it's more important than it probably has been so far in my lifetime, that there needs to be a lot of young men and women who feel very strongly about being the change that they want to see. And I think that that's going to be an increasingly important thing that we want to emphasize and make sure that we're weaving into all parts of our curriculum. There's a part that math, that facts, that business, that social studies, that English, that science can play in all those roles in integrating those things. But one specific thing that I'd really like for us to start tackling when we come back in July or in August is really to examine bringing on a student representative from the high school or student representatives from the high school to be non-voting members, or I should say observers of our board meetings regularly. And the reason I believe that that's right and that would be good for both the education of specific students who would participate, but also with the information that they'd share with their peers, in much the same way that we look to our high achieving students to help some of those students who are struggling in their own courses when they work on projects with one another, that this is really something that will be able to give students who are ready for it the challenge and the opportunity to weigh in and think about some of the things that we consider here. I can just say from my own experience, I started attending these meetings when I was 15 and before I had graduated high school. And I can say that some of the best teachers that I had when going through Exeter were not teachers at the high school or teachers at the junior high school, but they were some of our administrators and even board members that were sitting on the board or that were in the room. And I mentioned it briefly, but one of those people is Anne, who's now going to be retiring. And really allowing some of our students who are prepared to take on that type of challenge to learn from board members, to learn from administrators, and to have some exposure to some of the really important topics that we're talking about, and even giving them the opportunity to work through some of the biggest questions that our state is facing, that our community is facing, and even to prepare them for some of the big questions and controversies that our country is facing is going to be increasingly important. And I really think that we need to look at having that role for a student or student representatives to the board to comment, maybe not on a regular basis, to be observers and resources where we can really utilize them. So this is something that I'm going to be increasingly looking for and talking about. So I'd appreciate the support of my colleagues and for them to be thinking about it as well.
Hunter, I think that's a great idea. I know several students that would be highly interested in participating, so that's awesome.
Are you done, Hunter? Okay, I just wanted to say something to Dr. Phillips about how much I appreciated working with you. And Hunter, we're finished. We're coming on to our end of our third year. I think you said second. So I've had the opportunity to work with Dr. Phillips for like 2.5 years. And I was just listening to Dr. Hamburger. That is quite an impressive list of things that were accomplished during your tenure as superintendent. I knew about most of those, but there's some that I really didn't know about. And I spent over 30 years in education, and I've seen a lot of superintendents, and I just think you've done a really, awesome, excellent job as superintendent. And I really do appreciate, your service and all of the ways that you have moved Exeter forward, all the programs and everything that were accomplished during your service, your time with us. So some district is going to be very fortunate to have you as superintendent with all of this, more than 4 years of experience with our district. So I just wanted to say that because I just appreciate you.
Thank you.
If I can just quickly echo that and say thank you, Dr. Phillips, for your service to our community.
Thank you.
Any further comments from board members at this time? Okay. Michelle. This is Stratton.
I say something. I apologize that my photo is not up. I'm double a mother and a school board member at the same time here. Just that I want to say no. The first is I wanted to thank the passion that you've shown to my grandparents, carrying on the Herbine history shoes to fill when it comes to
I'm not sure, Michelle. I think you may be breaking up a little bit.
We've lost her audio.
Michelle, I think we're going to probably need to move on. Oh, are you there?
I went back in. I went outside to make it better. Okay, is
Okay.
that better? Yep.
I think we have you. Yep.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I
Move on.
went
Yep.
outside hoping that would be better. You can hear me, Dave, or you cannot?
Yes, we can hear you.
You can.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm actually on vacation right now. I don't know if you heard me say that. So because I'm at the beach, I'm kind of juggling, being a mom and a school board member. So therefore it's kind of, it's been challenging. But I'll start at the beginning in case you didn't hear what I had said. I just said the first thing I wanted to do was to say to Dr. Phillips that I thank you for the love and compassion that you've shown to my grandparents and support in carrying on the Herbine history at Rifton. I also want to say that Dr. Miner has big shoes to fill when it comes to baby snuggles. You and Dr. Winters were always first in line to hold my daughter when she was born, and that means a lot to me. You also always remember to fulfill my love for chocolate chip cookies, and my belly will always be grateful to you. I wish you the best of luck and happiness in the future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Stratton. Any other comments by board members? Okay, before we adjourn, I just want to remind board members to stay on the line. We are going to be having an executive session. Stay on the line after the adjournment. This particular time, I will accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
We have a second. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
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 We're adjourned. Okay. So thank you. We'll conclude the video feed of this meeting at this